Hey friends, welcome to the Teresa Lusk Show. I am your host, Teresa Lusk, and I have the wonderful Abraham George today. Listen, I'm super proud of having Abraham George on the show today because he is an Indian American, but he is a conservative, and he's got a wonderful story to share with you. We're going to give you some updates about what is going on in Collin County, but honestly, this is a voice you need to hear because, as you know, I'm a Latina. I speak about this all the time. Conservatism is often seen as the white man's party. Abraham, welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here.
You know, let me read to you just a little bit about Abraham. And Abraham George, chairman of the Collin County GOP, got involved in the Republican Party when he realized the party's values echoed his own. At just 16 years old, Abraham immigrated with his family to the U.S. from India as soon as he finished high school. As an adult, when Abraham prepared to vote in the 2008 presidential election, he said members of the minority community were expected to align with the Democrat Party and vote for Barack Obama. But I didn't like Obama or his policies, said Abraham. Though the narrative was to support the Democrat Party, I realized I needed to get involved with the Republican Party. Wow. Tell us about that.
Well, I was never involved in politics, especially in the United States. So, you know, when you come from another country, your priorities are getting a job, going to school. When I came, I was 16, like you said earlier. So, finding a decent job to make a living, things like that, it's what matters. And then building a community, building a family, all of that stuff. So, in 2008, when everything was so in the media, all the presidential campaigns were out there. Many of the minority communities inside the community itself, like a lot of Indian friends that I had were supporting Democrat Party just because Obama was running. So that kind of didn't sit well with me. I was a business owner, and I said the policies, the tax implications, many of the things that Democrat Party pushes, I just don't believe in that. I believe in capitalism. So that's how I kind of started to watch politics. Even in 2008, I didn't really care. Honestly, I started after he got elected. Is when I really said, okay, I gotta know more about this. I need to learn more about this. That's how I essentially got started in politics. Yeah.
Well, I have a question for you because I've seen this pattern with non-white people who come from other countries. They run from their country because of the financial status and situation. Then they come here and they vote Democrat. Please help me understand this, Abraham.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the media itself. If you watch CNN, it's all about minorities or Democrats. They don't even give a choice. Like if you're a minority, like when Biden said, if you're voting for Trump, you ain't black. It's crazy. Things like that are coming from Democrat Party in the top leadership. CNN and any of the left-wing media, if you look at it, that's the primary narrative that they push on the minority community, saying, we are for you, we will give you a few bucks, here's a handout. And most people, if you're struggling, you want that. You would take that. But what they don't mostly understand is that handout is to keep you at the place where you're at.
Ooh, you heard that. You heard that. This is coming straight from a man who came from India. I wish more people would understand that. Starting with Americans. Can we just start with Americans? Because I'm sure, was it shocking to you to see what our culture was like, that even so many Americans almost reject the idea? Here's how I see it. By being so against capitalism, you reject the idea that you one day could be successful yourself.
That's right. Yeah. So it's the mentality of I'm a victim all the time, right? And I can never be the master. I will always be a victim. That mentality is what's keeping a lot of minority communities in the place that they're at. And the Democrat Party loves to do that because that's their vote bank. That's where they go to get elected or re-elected, right? So this has become a problem for America. It doesn't matter what's your color. I mean, if you're black, Asian, Hispanic, whatever the minority community you're part of, you see this. Now you see that in white Americans as well. You see that in rural areas. Texas used to be Democrat. We flipped, become a Republican state. Now we're seeing this handouts is the main reason that we're starting to see a lot of blue areas inside the state of Texas, right?
That and the political temperature, even in the areas of traditional family, morality, because I think that's one of the biggest pushes is if we can just say, hey, we're the Democrat Party, we're the party of everybody, then we can, and I see it, they are gaining more followers because of what? Because everything is, let's accept everything, let's accept everybody. But in the meantime, we are literally slowly dismantling the traditional family.
Absolutely. The nuclear family is a threat to Democrat Party. It always has been, and that's why Democrat Party supports abortion. They don't want more people, and they support abortion in minority communities a lot more than they would support in a affluent white community, right? Wow. How many times do we see Planned Parenthood clinics in South Lake or even Frisco?
You're
right? You see it in Dallas. You see it in South Collin County, Plano, that area. You see it where they know there are larger minority groups are there, and also people who doesn't have a lot of money lives in that area. And the solution to Democrat Party is, well, let's kill those babies. Yeah, and for Republicans is, no, let's give them an opportunity so they can become a lot more affluent, that they have an opportunity to become what everyone else in South Lake has. Or, I'm just picking it.
Sure.
I'm sure there are people who doesn't have enough money in South Lake. But what I'm trying to say is the Democrat Party's ideology is nuclear families have to be a problem. There will be a problem for them, so let's kill it. So why would you promote something that is a threat to you? It's basically what they're doing. Yeah.
It's absolutely horrific what's happening, but more than anything, how I think Americans who should be able to think for themselves. Yesterday I saw this reel on social media, and it was funny thing, Steve Harvey, you know, and he was like so anti-Trump, and I'll just bring Trump up, right? But all of a sudden he's pro, and I was like, see, that's what happens when you go by emotion. And I love Steve Harvey, just FYI, he's a funny guy. I watch his motivational videos. Too. He's a great guy. But I watched the evolving of so many people were like, yay, pro, Joe Biden. And now you're seeing the mess. So now they're backtracking and going, hey, guess what? It wasn't so bad after all. Darn right. Darn right. Because who likes these gas prices in this economy? And people say, well, it's not Biden's fault. I don't know about that. I don't know that we can really say that. I mean, there's definitely influence from the top.
Absolutely. The economy itself, capitalist economy or world economy kind of rolls itself, right? I mean, no one, if no one is touching it, the only thing that's touching the economy is the policies that are created by the government, right? And Biden's first thing in the first day of office was to cancel the pipeline. And anyone with half a brain would know that's not good for gas prices. You can't argue that, right?
Right.
So eventually, when they had $4.50, $5 or $7, $8 in certain areas in the country, California especially, their whole point was, well, let's go to electric. Then they came back and said, well, don't charge electric cars because we don't have enough energy to do it. Now you see in California that they're asking people not to charge electric cars because the heat is driving the energy industry. So you can either go to work or you can have AC. It's which one do you want? It's a mess.
Well, why should we have to choose that, right? That's just something, that's crazy. So, I think it's interesting. One of the things that I've had, one of the gifts that I've had is to be able to talk to some of my friends, Abraham, that don't even pay attention to what's going on with politics, and by just engaging them in conversation and saying, okay, pay attention to this, pay attention to that.
Right.
Do you find that that's how you've had to reach your group of people, and
Absolutely.
and how? Tell us a little bit, because let's be honest, as Americans, we're pretty ignorant about. I'm just going to say it about how would you. What is going on in the Indian community and other communities that come from other nations? Can you fill us in just a little bit? I know I'm kind of going back, but I think this is important.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Indian community is depends on which generation you're in, right?
Okay.
So I'm an immigrant. I came here when I was 16. My dad is an immigrant. He came here probably in his early 40s or mid 40s. My children are, they were born here. But there are people who were born here who are in their 50s and 60s today in the U.S., right? Their parents came from India. One of the people who are running for president, Vivek, he is born here. He was born here in the U.S. and his perspective will be a little different from someone who showed up in the last 5 years because they're not really worried about the policies or the politics. What they're worried about is gas prices. What they're worried about if they can find a job, right? If they can send their kids to college, if they can afford a prescription medicine, things like that. So when you reach out to these communities, you kind of have to figure out what is that they're looking for, right? Some of my cousins, most of my cousins who are here were born here. If I talk to them, they will probably talk about NBA or NFL. If I speak to someone who I know who's been here for 3 years, they don't care about those things. They care about how do I find a new job or a better job, right? Or which college is good for my kids, right? So in being in politics, I think what we should be doing as Republicans or any politician, honestly, is to figure out what is your what is that they want, what matters to your citizens, right? Indian community seems to be more on the higher end of education is one major thing for them.
Okay.
And recent Supreme Court ruling, it was taken, accepted with a lot of joy in that community.
Which ruling?
About the affirmative
action. Okay.
Sorry. The idea was that, or the narrative was that they were not able to get into colleges because of their color. Today, it's all merit-based, right? There are still colleges and private schools can still do that, but the idea came to, okay, now we're all somewhat equal. It's an equal playing field that anyone with some merit can apply and hopefully get into a college.
Good.
So those kind of things is what matters to the Indian community a lot.
Very interesting. I love how you broke it down when you said it depends on the generation, because one of the things I keep hearing, friends, is that like for the Latino community, people keep saying, well, Latinos are generally very conservative. And that is true up to a certain generation. Like the younger generations, no, they're starting to kind of go off veer left, more with morality to begin with, and then with everything else. But I think that most Americans are starting to see the pinch. Surely you're paying attention to what's going on. So I love the way that you broke it down on, okay, it's generations. A lot of us care about education. Let's talk about faith a little bit, because you're a man of faith. You're a Christian.
Right. I am a Christian. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But generally, a lot of the Indian community, are they Christian? Are they Hindu? Well, can you explain that a little bit?
In India, it's a little more different, but I don't know the numbers here, to be honest with you. But there's a lot of Christian Indians here, a lot of Hindus, a lot of Muslims. Buddhist is another religion that India. It's a prominent religion in India. So the lot of people who are coming these days seems to be Hindus, because it has a lot to do with the job visas, H-1 visas. So they come as part of some sort of work program for 2 years, 3 years, things like that. And most of them usually stay in America because the companies who brings them wants them here, and they will file for immigration and they will go through that process. I rarely come across a Indian who doesn't believe in God, regardless of which God they believe in. Okay. Either they're Hindus or Muslims or Christians, they do believe in God, a higher power, in their faith, and they're usually pretty devoted religious people.
But are they conservative? Because that's where I want to go to. Because this is such a good thing. This is so yummy. This whole topic, because you're really filling us up with information to understand. Because you said it doesn't matter which God, they believe in something.
Right.
What about you see our country's losing their mind on I can identify as a cat if I feel like it today.
Yeah, I hear that.
So, with that being said, where are these people, because they don't have the same faith?
Right.
So what do you see, and what is true based on what you know, as far as, do they have an issue with what we're seeing?
They do. They absolutely do. And you can see that in school boards now. That's where I see the most people are showing up to, right? Because that's where their kids are, and they're showing up to
speak against
it.
Oh, yes. Good.
So their whole point is, if I'm sending my 10-year-old, teach them math, how to read, how to write, science, history, politics, whatever. But don't teach them morality. That's not really your job.
That's right.
Don't teach them faith, because that's really not what a public school is supposed to do. We should really stop calling public schools and start calling them government schools, because that's what
Amen
it
to that.
really is.
Yes, yeah.
So the Indian community, regardless of what faith they're in, they're starting to show up to schools, because now they see, well, if I send my kid to public school or government school, he might come back with an ideology that I don't believe in.
Correct.
Or my parents believed in, that they have a strong opposition to.
Yeah.
So it's turning out to be a blessing in disguise, honestly, because now the parents are starting to pay attention to what schools are teaching and what's in the library, what's in the curriculum. All of those things are coming out to the surface.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing to see how many books people who come into the meetings, the board meetings, they'll start reading books that are absolutely inappropriate. And it's funny how they don't want you to read them out loud, but they don't want you to say anything about them either. And you're like, what a hypocrisy there.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous, including in our county. I'm sure you've seen a lot of this.
I've seen a lot of those, yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what's going on in our county. And I don't want to just minimize this to a county issue, because what I really like to do is see what is going on in our county that stretches and affects our state, which in turn affects our nation.
Right.
So, you're the Collin County GOP Chairman. What are some things you're seeing, and what do we need to be aware of?
Well, Collin County wise, we're the number 6th county in the state of Texas, largest counties wise. Our population is growing every day. We have little more than 100 people moving into Collin County a day.
Wow.
So that's why our home prices has gone up, because no one's building 25, 30 homes in a day. There is not enough. I mean, there are people moving out as well. So sure. But what we see is we see a shift in ideology in our school districts. We shift that throughout our corporations. We see that in our churches. Unfortunately,
gosh.
right?
Yes,
And we see that everywhere.
Yeah.
In specific to school boards and the school districts, I understand there's only a few people who are elected to the school boards, and they cannot read 30,000 books.
Right.
They don't have the bandwidth to do it. I get that. So blaming just the school board members is not enough. That's probably the easiest thing to do, but that's not the right thing to do. Okay. Yes, they are responsible for it. They are the elected people. We don't elect principals and superintendents, but we elect those specific individuals, and they're responsible for it. But it also means the parents have to be involved, right? The parents need to know what are the books that the kids are reading. Recently, I was talking to one of the school board members here in Collin County, and she made a comment by saying, well, if your kids are checking out books from library, thank God, because no one is doing it. No kids want to read.
Wow.
Well, my answer to it was, well, then why are we spending millions of dollars on every year?
Oh.
Building
Good
libraries.
Comeback. Yeah.
And putting that as one of the major items in our every budget, right, statewide. So we see this in Collin County. Collin County have to be Republican. This is one of those places that people look up to, even in the Republican circles. If you are a Republican county chairman in South Texas, they usually contact Collin County or one of those counties like Georgetown, those areas, to figure out, hey, how do you do this? How do you manage a campaign like this? So we kind of become an example by default, by being a large county here. So if we lose Collin County and one or two more other counties, we will lose Texas because we were one of the largest ones. It's just by numbers alone they could flip Texas. And you know what happens if they can flip Texas?
Oh, of course. Right? And they want to flip Texas. Let's not be mistaken. Like they want Texas pretty bad. Yeah.
Right. So the major one of the things that I see is how much money Democrat Party puts into Collin County. We're talking millions of dollars from them, and this has been going on for years now. When congressional candidates were running 10 years ago, they were putting in, our candidates, Republican candidates, will put in like $400,000, and the Democrat will run at $2 million and still get 40% of the vote. But they haven't been able to flip anything. But at the same time, we also understand we cannot be asleep at the wheel.
That's
we
right.
just have to be extremely aggressive in outreach.
I think there's a lot of, I see a lot of sentiments of cynicism that have just really cultivated in the hearts of people because, even in the last elections here in our area, it didn't go well, unfortunately. I see that as, and this is not just to Collin County, you just see the progression of liberalism and the lack of morality. You get to see a lot of things behind closed doors and out in public. What do you expect is going to happen? Do you see a shift? Do you see us regaining some control for those who believe in the traditional, healthy, faith-based families?
I do. The reason why I say that with some data backing, if you talk to high school kids, especially males, young boys, they're starting to become a lot more conservative these days.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you brought that.
They see these things on social media. A lot of people are talking about both feminism and masculinity and things like that, and they start to see, what, if I go to gym and I have a built body, and they care about those kind of things when they're 15, 16, 17, right? So all of a sudden they are considered
aggressive.
Yes. They're not considered a nice person, and they're like, this can't be right. This is not normal, right? So last night I was talking to a 17-year-old kid who goes to Allen ISD, and young minority, I believe he's one of the Asian backgrounds, not Indian, and his whole thing was, and he's not a big built, 7 feet type of personality, but his whole thing was, well, just because I go to gym, all of a sudden many of my friends don't consider me as in their circle. Wow. That's all. That's all he does different from them. So, and then all of a sudden he's starting to push back and saying, this can't be right. This doesn't make any sense.
That's right.
So I do see younger people coming forward and saying, this gotta stop. There is a limit to everything, right?
Yes.
So this has gotta stop. So
Yes.
I hope that our community here in Collin County will be leading in that. And we are reaching out to a lot of high schools and especially charter schools, places where we can actually go and talk about conservative values. We are doing that.
Are they letting you in, or how are you managing?
Public schools, no, obviously not. But a lot of charter schools, private schools, they love it. We
Yeah.
have good people who are retired teachers, professors from universities who want to give back more, and they are available. So we have a great system going for that.
We can't blame the parents for everything, but I do think that parents have a lot to do with the direction of our children right now, and it's so important. I've said this in many different segments, that parents have got to be sure that they are the gatekeepers. But one of the things that I'm noticing, Abraham, that parents are often the ones opening the door to the craziness of their kids, and it's heartbreaking because as a woman of faith, I can tell you this, the Bible's very clear that we are the ones who are to gatekeep for our children, guide them into being godly. But it's like the parents, it's almost like they not all, but just some that have something to do with this movement, like they're the ones ushering their children into this. They're the ones taking their kids to shows, drag shows, and craziness like this, and that's so heartbreaking. And I wish I could say that our area isn't being filled with some of that stuff, but our area is.
Yes,
it is.
We had some issues like that in Plano, right? I mean, it made national news. One thing I see is when there's something new in the culture comes out, there are a lot of people who want to be part of that, right? They want to be the cool, hip, whatever that is.
Oh my gosh.
Talking about social media, I was watching Reels, and there's a group, I forgot the name. They put out this reel basically saying, what happens if you are straight in a liberal family, and this probably 15-year-old kid coming out and saying, Dad and Mom, I have a girlfriend, and Dad just loses his mind. It's like, I didn't raise you to be a straight person. I raised you to be a gay. It's like, so I mean, it's obviously dramatized, and it's just fun, but at the same time, there's a message in there.
That's right.
There's a lot of parents who are liberal, want to push that kind of agenda onto their kids, and that's really hurting our culture. Not only our culture, our family values. Our Vivek, the presidential candidate, says something, and he says the nuclear family is the best form of government mankind has ever seen. And that's what Democrats hate. So they keep pushing that out there.
Yeah. It's really mind-blowing to me. What is it that they hate? Why do they hate it so much? And I guess it is this, that if you can break down the places of strength, you can have more control. That's really all it boils down to. If you can take the father out, which I've been speaking about this for a while, that I feel like our males are being attacked. You talked about the young man. Absolutely, that's happening. I see it with young girls. I have a daughter. She's 20. I love my daughter. She's precious. But I hear how they talk about men and the masculinity thing, because a lot of the guys these days are very effeminate.
Right.
And you can't tell if they're gay or straight or what. Like, I'm glad I'm not 20 anymore. Let me just say that. Like, that's the only time I'll say that, right? Well, maybe not. But, and you're just like, what is the deal? And the younger generations have been taught that it is assertive, aggressive to be a man's man, but there's something that's a disconnect there, because there is assertion that's unhealthy, but assertion is necessary in some degrees, because that's how God made you, to protect and be at the front line.
Right.
We need men to be men and not be afraid to be men.
Right.
But somehow, and you said it in the beginning, media. I get so upset at media, because media shapes the mind of people 100%, and we are not discriminatory. Like, unless you're unless you have unless your brain's really working, you don't know to say absolutely not, I disagree with that.
Right.
Abraham, I watch conservative news sometimes. I'll still tear it up, because I'm like, you just told me how to think.
Right.
I don't need you telling me how to think.
I just need the information.
Give me the information. I'll make up my own mind.
You're absolutely right.
Right.
Jordan Peterson. He talks about one thing. He says the masculine men or the men who are violent are not masculine men or something in that nature. The strong man is capable of violence and still look at it and decides, okay, I am not going to be part of that.
That's right.
I can walk away and still be in control of my life and control of everyone, my family, my kids. So there is a cultural shift. If you're masculine, you are violent. It's not true. It's the opposite. If you're not capable of violence, then you are at that point, it's weak. You're looked at as weak person, right? A real masculine man would come out and say, you know what, and look at him, and in his deeds and acts, he will be absolutely able or to be a violent person if he needs to be. But the choice, the real masculinity comes when he decides, okay, you know what, I'm okay with it. That person is violent, but he's little. I'm not going to get there. Right. I'm going to walk away. And that's what it takes. But that cultural disconnect is what the media is pushing. That's the cultural thing, right? Like, correct. If you're a masculine, all of a sudden you're a violent person. No, that's not true. It's the opposite. It's most of the time it's the opposite.
Well, God forbid. But let's put these what do they call it? Toxic. Let's put these non-toxic men on the line when the war comes. Let's see if you don't pull out the so-called toxic men, to come and defend your country, your state, whatever, because that's how that is. It's so unfortunate. And, for those who are young, if there are any young people listening to this, maybe you're in your early 20s, maybe you're even a millennial, 30s, early 30s and younger. Guys, this is an appeal to you that, I know that media says all kinds of things to you, but please hear our hearts. If you go back in history, you know that it took strong men who are willing to stand for freedom. And now it's been men and women, thank God. But, if you look back, it was strong men who were willing to stand on the line for your freedom. We are so spoiled here in America. We've had so much freedom. We've had so much blessing, resources of every way. If you go, a lot of people get upset and they say, well, I'm leaving America if so-and-so gets voted, and usually Trump, And it's like, I would like for you to go to a third world country. I've been to a few, and let me tell you, we're blessed. I say that all the time. We are so blessed. Can I just tell you, I'm just thankful for toilet paper in the restroom, for hand soap, for sanitizer. You know what I'm saying? For food.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yes. I know you know what I'm saying because you came from India.
Right.
So you know that. But we've become so entitled to an idea. And that's the falsehood there that is being implanted in the young minds, and not just picking on the younger generations, even some older people that have been around and they're just losing their marbles too. And it's like, guys, y'all have to forget what the media says. I know you're upset about certain political candidates, blah, blah, blah. That's your prerogative. But can we just look at the facts? Like, were you better off when there was a Democrat president? When there was and then I have friends who are like, patriots, constitutionalists, and I'm all for that. But they get upset because they're like, you don't understand both sides, and I'm like, I get it, but at least in my lifetime, as long as I've been thinking about politics, this is what I have seen. I've seen the proof of, what does having a liberal, Democrat, progressive, elected official look like versus a conservative.
Right. It's you can see that not only national level, right? You look at Austin, city of Austin, run by Democrats, progressives, not just Democrats. There's I'm starting to realize the difference between a traditional Democrat, which there isn't any in the leadership. There are so many people who are out there who still identify and want to be part of the Democrat Party, and they're just like, what am I doing with this party anymore, right? We have elected officials who were in the Democrat Party elected officials switching over to the Republican Party and running as a Republican this time in South Texas, right? So if you look at Austin, you look at somewhere like in another city in Collin County and see the difference in lawlessness, and where how the crime rates in Austin is just absolutely crazy. Now Texas DPS have to police Austin.
Wow.
Because then recently the city of Austin didn't want that, because obviously they didn't want to be policed. So now Texas is using its authority to police and support the city of Austin, because there are people who wants to live in a peaceful place.
Correct.
It's so the rest of the state is picking up the tab for Austin for their police department. It's basically what we're doing.
That's ridiculous.
We see this everywhere. Look at Chicago. Look at most of California. It's just crazy how, and I believe people are starting to see this now. It's like, look, you know what? If I don't believe I can move to Chicago and have a reasonable life, and go at night at 10 o'clock and walk around in downtown Chicago, then why would I support that policy?
Correct.
Right? Why would I support Democrat policies if I can't do that there, but I can do it here in McKinney or Frisco or Allen?
Right.
So that's the difference that's coming out.
Well, I was in Austin back in March of this year, and I'll be honest with you, I was a little ticked off that we have a conservative Republican governor and it looks this way. I'm sorry. I was embarrassed, because here's the thing. I don't know Governor Abbott personally, but here's the thing. If you have me and I'm a governor of Texas, and that city, the capital of Texas, looks like that, that's a reflection of me and my party. That's very upsetting to me. Now, I'm not saying that it was his policies that caused this, but you're in there. Can we be honest, Abraham? Because I think that a lot of times people, they get upset because they say, well, we're so... like I was just saying, we cling on to our party. I don't cling on to my party. I will call out the stuff. I'm objective. I'm not trying to necessarily make friends. I'm just trying to make an influence where I have influence, where I can. Okay, so isn't that an issue? I mean... It
is an issue, but I gotta disagree a little bit there, because the city of Austin is run by the city council, right? It's not run by the state of Texas. It's not like DC. Well, actually, DC is run by their own people as well. So Abbott can do certain things, which is what he's doing now, by putting DPS there. And recently, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, he said...
But that was recent, right?
Right.
Right.
But before that, or anytime, they would rather not have the state control. I mean, this also goes to the party's position. Okay, local control is important. We agree with that. Until then, we've got homelessness the way they have in Austin. It's just crazy. You can't, I mean, if you drive on 35 and exit to go to Capitol, you would see at least 500 tents on your way to Capitol. This is the capital of state of Texas.
Yes.
So, and Austin's city's policy is, that's fine, we don't care, as long as they're not coming to the wealthy areas, we're good. Just keep them under 35. So that's what that group is doing, and Abbott now have to step up and say, you know what, enough is enough. I'm going to put the state police to be policing you all now. I am not in big favor of that, because we're picking up the tab. Honestly, he should be billing them. That's what I think he should be doing.
Well, hey, maybe that could be a suggestion. If Governor Abbott watches this, maybe one day he could,
why am I, who lives here in Collin County, paying for Austin's problems?
Hey, there you go. Well, and and I appreciate you disagreeing. I still think there should have been something done. I mean, he's been in there long enough. I'm sorry. I'm glad he's doing that right now. I'm sure there's some, repercussions to getting involved in that way, because we're always like limited government. That's the thing about conservatives. We're limited. But with some things, it's almost like you're forced to. And I mean, I was a little nervous, because I came to a stop sign, and listen, it's not just homelessness. It's that it's aggressive homelessness. It's, I was sitting there going, so I'm from Dallas, right? Born and raised. So I tell my sweet assistant all the time, like, I don't trust anybody. I don't care where I'm at. I can be at McKinney, Highland Park. I don't care. When you're born and raised in Dallas, you don't trust anybody for anything. And I just think, I was at the stoplight, and there were some things going on, and I said, okay, which way can you gun it and get out of here? Because I had my son with me in the car. It was just me and my 16-year-old, That's not good.
That's not good in Texas at all. I mean, it doesn't matter which city it is, right? It shouldn't be happening in the United States. We're the world power. Regardless of what people say, we still lead the world. The entire economy built or controlled by the people who are controlling our government, right? So, and we have a city like Austin, the capital of state of Texas, which is the 9th largest economy of the world, and this is what we get. This is crazy. So, and it still goes back to the drastic difference between how a Republican city is run versus a Democrat city is run. But regardless of your politics, you should be thinking, okay, I need to live in a city where it's safe for me to drive around.
Yeah.
You know, with all the limited government stuff, I absolutely agree 100% all the time. I'd rather have the government stay away from my business any day.
Right.
But safety and security of the people are one of the things that government is expected to provide.
Absolutely, I agree, and I think that goes. You know, we could even include that if we got into border issues, which we're not going to today because I know that we have plenty that we've covered. You know, what would you like to say to people who? Let's talk to my non-white American brothers and sisters who might watch this, Abraham, and go, I don't know, you know, I'm told that, the Democrats, the Joe Biden party, that they care about people. But it's not true. And I believe that you need assistance. You can need assistance up to a certain point. I'm not even anti-welfare or whatever. Speaking of presidents who were not progressive liberals like Bill Clinton, he had a great welfare program.
Yeah, right.
He was a Democrat, right? So I do believe in helping people out to a certain degree, but then you set up ways to help people. However, we have another generation now that's come in from other countries, a whole lot of different nations, by the way.
Right.
So what do you say to them about the messages that the media is sending to them saying, hey, it's the Democrat Party, they're the ones that are for you? What does that really mean?
Well, I'll say two things on that. One is the Democrat Party is for themselves. They want to get elected using your skin color. It's basically what it is. They don't care about you. If they cared about you, they would have given you more opportunity to become a leader in your community, to take yourself to the next level, right? That's what the Republican Party wants to do because it's the personal responsibility, but it's not, you go out there and do it yourself. It's also, okay, there are the country, or the state or the county, or wherever you are at, it's being run by policies that will create more jobs. It's being run by policies that will give you an opportunity to start a business.
Yes, that's important.
So if the Democrat Party really cares about you, they would figure out a way to bring policies that you can start a business tomorrow and become a millionaire if you want to, if you work hard. Not tomorrow, but if you work hard, right? So that's the difference between the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. It's our principles are personal responsibility. You build it yourself, and the government stays away from your business. Yeah. And it's your responsibility, right? And the Democrats Party's whole point is, no, let me give you $2,000 every 2 years, and you be poor for the rest of your life, and you keep supporting us. Yeah. That $2,000, they didn't bring it. It's your money anyway. They took it over the years, over the months, then they will give it back to you like a handout. It's not a handout. They took it away from you. Now they're giving it back to you. Yeah. And that's why the Republican Party is like, stop the taxing, because let me spend my money the way I want to spend. And if I'm capable of earning the money, I am capable of spending the money. Right.
That's right.
That's a huge difference between the parties. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I think people need to hear that. And for those who are watching, I want to tell you that you have been given gifts by God. Like, you have the 100% ability to rise up and be successful. You have the ability to be creative. You have the ability to produce and multiply because God made you that way. He gave you the power to create wealth. The Bible actually speaks of that. And so when we become so dependent on government, I believe that there is a time for it. especially if the government was collecting money from you and from other hardworking Americans to make these programs, benefit. Go ahead, cash in on some of that if you need it. But at some point, the mentality has got to start shifting that you are fully equipped to make something great out of yourself. And guess what? To pass it on. Not just to create, but to pass it on. That is God's way, is you do something great and you share it with others.
Absolutely.
And you're not being forced to share it because you're being taxed so much money.
Yes.
Because America in general, I have a friend who is, he's not American, and he said America is a very generous country.
Absolutely.
And guess what? Because we understand that if you build something, it's good to share. We don't have to be forced. But when you have a government who's forcing high taxes, taxing the corporations because they say they're greedy, whatever, I mean, seriously, it messes up our economy at the end of the day. So, I've had so much fun talking with you today. This has been such a pleasure. I'm so glad you came on.
Yeah, this was fun. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, thank
I love
you.
it.
Well, friends, there you have it. This is Abraham George. Tell us how they can find you and connect with you.
So easiest way to find me is to go to collincounty.gop.org and my phone number is there. You can put in a volunteer request. You can, if you want to be part of the volunteer group, or if you want to become a precinct chair, just go to our website. That's the easiest way to do it. Or you can just come to headquarters. I'm there almost every day. If not, we have staff who are there, and just show up. We're open all day, and let's meet and chat.
That's right. That's awesome. You have plans to run?
Probably. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do yet. Yeah, probably yes.
Good.
It's a tough decision, so I've got to work through it.
Awesome. Well, hey, good luck and blessings on all of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
All right, my friends, there you have it. God bless you, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.